let's get started. I mean, I woke up to talk about the food. It shouldn't be nerve-wracking, right? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fisher Protocol. I am here to prove that I just didn't do the one show. It's Ethan here. I'm going to go down some of my favorite albums with some friends of mine that also happen to like those same albums. Today, we're going to go with my favorite album from my favorite band, which is The Who, and the album is Quadrophenia. Probably should have started this one. I wanted to get my feet wet before I dove into the big one. Today, I have my friend Tom Hall. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Ethan. How you doing?
Good. Got that last name right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So last time I did an album, I did a Florence and the Machine album, and it was very sprawling. And I guess the only other album that's more sprawling is Quadrophenia on my list, which means there's millions of versions, there's millions of iterations. I think the last one went pretty long. We're going to try to shorten this one up, maybe do it in a couple parts. But really quick, I want people to know who you are.
Yeah.
And, when I used to go out all the time back when I was raving it up in the 90s, I would always wear a big Who button. And I always get stuck inside a conversation where someone would be like out of their mind on something, and they say, but why The Who? Right? So my question to you is, before I go into our relationship, is, why The Who?
Yeah. I remember hearing of The Who, but didn't know them any more than like just hearing them on the radio, and even then, like, good luck, they're not like the radio band. CSI theme songs. I'm younger. I'm 32. So not, definitely not my generation. No pun intended. But I remember like 9/11, the concert for 9/11, concert for New York. Watching that whole show, and I was in 9th grade, and just watching that, and then it's sad artist, sad song, sad artist, sad song, and then like next thing you know, like out comes The Who, and they just go nuts, and they just knock the place down. You can tell that the firefighters, that's their stuff. They didn't care about seeing Jay-Z or whatever. I'm sure they enjoyed everything, but when The Who came out, like, you could just see all those guys turn into like teenagers and kids again. And from that moment forward, it's, I was just like, I couldn't believe what I had seen, and just fell in love with them right away, and just, dove in deep on getting my hands on all their music and figuring out everything about them. And, in guitar class, and I think probably 10th grade, I did my report on Pete Townshend. Like, it was a deep rabbit hole. And, as you know, the rabbit hole is really deep and it's never ending. So there's still stuff I'm finding and listening to, and not even trying to put any effort into, spending time on bootlegs, because I just know that I'll never find the bottom of the hole. So, they're not the Grateful Dead in that sense, but you could just go on days and days and days with bootlegs and everything else. So spend a lot of time listening to them and seeing them and everything I can about them, for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be the danger of doing this particular podcast with you and me, because, I have a million things to say just about the concert for New York.
Yeah.
Which is your first experience. All these guys are waiting all day, but what do they get? They get Mick and Keith. They want it. They get a lame. In my opinion, this is all my opinion. This whole show is my opinion. Like Melissa Etheridge doing More to Run. She didn't have a good night. There was lots of weird things that night. And for all these people that thought maybe The Who weren't around anymore, they really, really, really came out and destroyed the place. Quite obviously the opposite of their Live Aid performance, which will be another show. And, hopefully this goes so well that, every couple weeks we'll have a new topic to dissect if you want. But that's in my dreams. Just so people know, for me, when I was 10, that 1989 Who, Tommy, Universal Amphitheater performance came on TV, and I don't know what it was. I had no idea. I think it was the songs. I might remember some Tommy things from when I was a kid. My dad had the London Symphony Orchestra Tommy, and it's just that weird record that has a silver ball. You have these records and you don't know what's in them, and there's a picture on them, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what's inside. And I've gone down the rabbit hole a little bit more. I'm about 10 years older than you, and I saw them at Quadrophenia in 1996. I never thought I was going to see them.
Ugh.
And it just, we can get into that because it's Quadrophenia based, and it just goes on from there. I spent time with the Who's Greatest Hits with the shirt, the Union Jack shirt says Who's Greatest Hits. Spent the most time with that and Tommy. Then my uncle gave me Who's Next, right? And it goes on from there. I have gone down the rabbit hole. I've given my son Pete Townshend's name. His middle name is Townsend. Can't believe I got that one by the wife. I did start on the internet at that time, and it's kind of been a defining characteristic of me since I was 10 years old, and it hasn't really gone away. But in that middle time, I took a job, I guess in 2005, at Guitar Center in Fairfax County, Virginia, after I got married. And then we moved across to Maryland, and I started working at the Guitar Center in Towson, Maryland. And it became very evident that if a kid came in and was playing a Who song, you would go see me. They would send you to go talk to me, because I'm the Who guy at the store. And I think that's how I met you.
Yep, 100%. I remember the exact moment, honestly.
Oh, wow.
Popped into the store in Towson, and I'm just messing around on, whatever. Grab a guitar off the wall, plugged in somewhere. I don't know if I was playing anything specifically, but I was wearing and I have it somewhere. I should have actually grabbed it. A black T-shirt with Pete Townshend, smashing a guitar, and it says this guitar has seconds to live.
Yeah.
And you came up to me and you're like, I'd get that tattooed on my face. And I kind of knew where I was at. That was it said everything they needed to say. And
I said that? I said, I'll get that tattooed on my face like that?
100% you said that. So, I think I'd pop in here and there every once in a while when I was in that area. And then, I think we found each other on Facebook or something like that, and just have kept in touch that way. And I think the only way we've ever seen each other, not that we haven't tried, but we see each other at Who shows, and that's about it.
And I believe we see each other at Who shows. We'd say where we're going. Every once in a while, we try to make some phantom plans to go to like some off Who show that we weren't going to go to.
Yeah.
Like, let's drive to upstate New York. Oh, it's not going to work out. You know what I mean? And, this has been going on for like 15 years or something like that, right?
Yeah. Because I would have, I was in school in Pennsylvania from 2005 to 2007. So I probably, I was still coming down to Maryland here and there, but yeah, I don't know when exactly you were at Guitar Center, but if I was coming down this way to do anything, I'd pop in every once in a while.
Yeah, and I see you at a bunch of shows, and every time there's a DC, Maryland show, I'd see you if you were there, bump into you. You tell me if you were going to Madison Square Garden or whatever, we're also Pink Floyd fans, so we talk about those shows we went to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, the Who knowledge here is strong, especially this post Keith Moon era. We're both Keith Moon post Keith Moon people.
Yeah,
I was born in 1979. You later. There's not much we can do about that. You know what I mean? But the subject of today's talk is Quadrophenia. Where does Quadrophenia stand for you on Who albums?
Definitely my favorite, and not for any other reason. Not for I don't know. I love Tommy, but if I have to listen to Tommy, I'd prefer the Live at Leeds version. The studio version's great and I love it, but that's just not the Who. Pete shied away from the electric guitar and that kind of thing. Not my favorite. Just I love their power. Who's Next? I absolutely, I adore it, but do I need to hear Behind Blue Eyes or Bob O'Reilly, like recorded version, studio version anymore? I mean, I'll never turn it off, but doesn't doesn't grab me the same way, especially if I have concert from New York, the 9/11 concert versions available. I can listen to that nonstop for 24 hours, no problem. Um, but Quadrophenia, though, I could listen to that. There's not really, I mean, there's some live stuff out there, but the studio version is just perfect. Um, I grew up playing trumpet and French horn, and I love classical music, and just kind of all that mashes together with the rock and roll, the rock part of it. So, and then just the whole theme of a teenager boy having a bad day, that kind of thing. Kind of when I found it, I was probably 15, maybe 15, 16. So um, some of that stuff hits a little harder when you're the same age. So yeah, that's it. Just it feels right. It sounds good. It's everything you want in an album.
Um, yeah, and my journey with Quadrophenia was it's a little weird because I saw it. My uncle and my father were song guys; they weren't album guys. So my dad really liked Pinball Wizard, so he had that Tommy One Symphony Orchestra, right? My uncle really liked, I guess, Behind Blue Eyes, so he went Who's Next. And my uncle again had this big, huge, black and white. When you're young and you're going into that stuff and you really like the Who, it's an intimidating looking thing. It's huge. It's black and white. There's tons of songs on it. You've only heard of 2 on your greatest hits compilations, right? Or 3. It's 515, maybe The Real Me and Love Rain Army. I was intimidated by it, and I didn't listen to it until before I went to go see them. When I randomly got a ticket when I was 16 to Madison Square Garden, which I'm not trying to talk about yet, but it's a big part of my Quadrophenia story.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to know. It was kind of like my last Who album that I listened to, just because I don't know. It's just massive. It's black and white. It's got this huge book in it. It doesn't look like a lively album, and from the outside, it doesn't look like almost the first time you see it a Who album. Kind of. I mean, if you catch my meaning. I mean, we all know now it's the quintessential Who album. And I was like, is there anything of the Who I love going to be on it? And of course, it's full of it. And just like you said, it ties in so much to that male adolescent point of view that, I just connected immediately to it. Sometimes when I do a thing like this where I listen to an album over and over again, sometimes my enthusiasm for it diminishes, but not for this fucking record. You know what I mean? This was a joy to listen to this in all its iterations, preparing to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I was worried when we talked about doing this. I was like, all right, I'll do my homework, and I listened to every version I had of it and spent a lot of time with the album. And then I guess when I thought we might be able to do it, do this podcast a week ago or whatever, 2 weeks ago, I I sat down with headphones and listened to it and took notes, and that was probably after listening to the whole album in some some version of it probably 20 times, and just doing the homework on it and really just focusing in on it, because I'm at work for 12 hours a day and I have my radio on or my my speaker on, and I'd have it just kind of looping the whole day, different versions, and to sit down and kind of dissect it and write out how I felt was I was impressed to how much I didn't notice or didn't think about or didn't even know about it. The hundreds of times I've listened to it, especially probably 20 times in the last 2 weeks. Just all little things you miss. So it was pretty cool actually to do that. I've never really done a deep dive like that on an album that I've listened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So
Yeah, I did too. So we should probably just get into it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Uh, we have the story of Jimmy, and I don't know how much we want to go over story or just songs. I guess they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? He is telling a story.
Yeah.
Pete Townshend wrote this whole thing. He's telling a story. We can talk about the strength or the weaknesses of the aspect of the, four personalities of the Who, which I'd almost rather mention now than not mention.
Yeah.
It's pretty weak. But we start with I Am the Sea. What is there to say about I Am the Sea?
I don't know if at the time the first time I had heard it or listened to the album, I don't know if I'd really heard anything like that. Just the way it, with the waves and just all the little blips of music and, um, you know, I do like very distinctly remember listening to it and just going like, this doesn't sound like the Who, or it's just, is this a Pink Floyd kind of thing, or they, just kind of adding that like atmospheric sound to things. Um, just kind of sets the mood though, because you get a taste of everything that's to come, and it just kind of sets the scene with it's going to be by the beach or by the the waves. There's just going to be that involved at some point. But you just don't know what's going to happen after that, and it just kind of like not lulls you to sleep, but it sets you up for the next song.
Yeah, it's setting you up to slam the hammer in your face, basically. Yeah. And this is the only time I'll spin off into one of these tangents. This is very, very instrumental song in getting me to go off on my 90s rave deviation, because we were at this girl's house and they were listening to this house music from the early 90s, this ecstasy-laden San Francisco tribal house music with a song called Rain Cry by the band, by the Hardkiss brothers. And the very first thing, and I had to point it out to these people, the very first thing in the record is a bunch of rain noises, and then you hear Roger's disembodied voice from I Am the Sea singing Love, Rain O'er Me. And then it goes into the house music. Like they had remixed it, and I was like, wait a second, loop that back around 8 times. Okay, so I'll talk about, when I do my rave podcast, I'll talk about that more, but that was a calling card there.
Right.
After I'd already listened to Quadrophenia. But we go right into the hammer, like I said before, the real me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's probably definitely one of the better songs in the album as far as radio play, but just quintessential Who there. Definitely reminds me of like a Who's Next kind of vibe. But Entwistle just turned all the way up and leading the charge, and just an absolute monster. And I remember, I played guitar, and I talked my brother into getting a bass and all this. My brother, enjoyed it and played kind of like 90s rock kind of stuff, easy things. And I just remember like, I got to learn how to play that, and found a tab online somewhere or whatever, and just tried to figure out that monster of a song on bass. And it's not awful, but, I can play that first little beginning part and, a little bit after that. But live, though, that guy just crushed it. But it just kind of sets the tone for like, hey, this is going to be Entwistle's going to be the leader of the whole album almost, at least with the melody or driving the songs. Just absolute monster.
Yeah, I guess my first memory of this version is from the movie. Like I said, I was very late getting into Quadrophenia.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I ever got for the Who was that 30 Years of Maximum R&B set.
Yeah.
Out in 94, I think, something like that. So the first version of The Real Me I ever heard was that Kenny Jones re-recorded version. I liked it. It's the first thing I liked. I liked it. But this thing is totally different. And I like how it goes, the words are so succinct. I mean, this might be just a Pete Townshend jack-off section podcast, but I mean, the words are so perfect as far as exactly what he's doing. I really saw the showness of this album listening to it this time. I could almost see it on stage in a Broadway setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, I got problems. They know I have problems. They've taken me to, I've talked to my mother about it. I talked to my father about it. I talked to my priest about it. I talked to my psychiatrist about it. And no one can help me. And just hitting you over the head with that Who sound, it's an amazing song. It's an amazing song, and it kind of sums up everything it means to be someone at that age who's confused about fashion and sex, the status quo, where you're supposed to be, where you fit into society. It's a great song. There's not too much to say, except if you watch the 2012 version of it, he took the capo off the third fret for that one. I know that from personal experience. They opened it just in G, but I love the song.
Yeah, just perfect. If you wanted to show, if you had to pick 4 songs to show somebody who the Who was, like, this is one of them. Is it my go-to song? Not necessarily, but when it pops up, and very rarely do I just listen to that, or like, I don't like wiggle my way through Quadrophenia. Like, if I started, I just go through the whole thing.
Right.
But yeah, this is like, you can play that for somebody and they'll have a good idea what the Who is, for sure.
And my favorite thing about the song, which I didn't hear at first until you listen to the album, is that studio trickery they do with him saying the real me over and over again at the end. It going right into my favorite things that Pete Townshend does, which is playing the acoustic guitar at the beginning of the instrumental Quadrophenia, which is just basically the overture, but it's called Quadrophenia, so I think it's a word he made up for the album. There's quadraphonic and everything, but I think Quadrophenia is a word for the album. I could be wrong. This is all in my humble opinion. But just a massive flamenco guitar intro into themes of the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is Quadrophenia. The song is just it separates the Who from everybody else for me. Everybody. There's just no chance anybody's going to do this. Keith Richards isn't going to write something like this. None of the Beatles are going to write anything like this. It's just so perfectly woven together. It explores the whole album, gives you every theme, every song. It just shows off that Townshend's light years above everybody else. Is it? I mean, it's up there as far as Bohemian Rhapsody, as far as just like, holy shit, did somebody just do that by themselves?
Completely by themselves. Because if you listen to that demo version, like, there's that demo version all over this.
Yeah. Oh no, the demo version's just as good. It's unbelievable. It's frustrating. And it, like I said, it just shows you how incredible the guy is. I can't imagine being, Moon or Entwistle just, listen to that demo for the first time, be like, all right, well, should we do something? And obviously those guys had, they had enough ego to go, oh yeah, I can do this. I can, and there's no way Pete can be either of them. But I think even when we were doing the homework on this, I asked you, I was like, did Pete do everything? And like, neither of us could find anything saying that he didn't do it. So, he plays all the instruments well and just crushes it. So to turn that demo into the guys, and they didn't really change too much. It's a testament to Townshend for sure. But I can listen to that song all day, every day, and it would make me so happy. So, and
you can kind of hear the evolution from something like that. It's mostly him by himself, pretty much, which is Who came first, right? Like, that's the first thing, where that's just him playing everything on those long versions of Let's See Action and everything like that, to coming and doing this. And it's just great, and it hits these themes that you hear again and again, and you get a crushing, the end of both of these big long instrumental pieces, the rock and this, which we'll talk about later, these crushing Love Rain O'er Me guitar parts at the end. And they destroy me every time.
Yeah.
Every time. But then we take it down and we go back into the life of Jimmy, who's the mod kid, right?
Yep.
And we go to cut my hair, and looking at this from the musical perspective, like seeing it as a musical, this sets up him even more. It's another like exposition song. Why should I care? He explains everything. I have to move with the fashion to be outcast. He goes on to explain about, doesn't even mention, he's out on the street again. He's leaping along. He's taking the leapers, right? He's taking the amphetamine, and he's going everywhere.
It's just the lyrics are smart. It sets everything up. You kind of have an idea what's going on, and I can't imagine how, like, if you grew up in that time period and you were a mod, or if you knew all that, like, I can't imagine like how hard this hits for you. I can't imagine myself back in that time, or I don't have a reference point for it, but it still triggers and hits things that you can relate to as a teenager. And I wasn't the most popular kid, or I wasn't, I really didn't give a shit about wearing certain clothes or fashion and all that. But when he does talk about that, it's like, you wonder if you should be doing it. You wonder if you should be trying to fit in somewhere. Really easy to relate to for a teenager. Hearing it for the first time for me, and I have no doubt that everybody can relate to it in some way.
Yeah, and he goes through a whole night basically. He's out on the street. He talks about how he's got to move with the fashion. Then he's out on the street and he's leaping along. But he talks about moving with the crowd, and the kids hardly notice when he's around. He works it himself. I'm not just going to read the lyrics here, but he works himself to death just to fit in. Then he's coming down from the drugs. He gets home. His parents are there. They give him an egg. He can't eat it. He's sick from being on drugs all night. And his fried egg makes him sick first thing in the morning. And, I've been through all that kind of stuff myself. It's super relatable.
Yeah, that's why this album just, I got pure luck that I found it at the age I found it. And, I can just imagine how many people were listening to this as a teenager when it came out, and just the connection you develop with it's got to be incredible for sure.
And we'll get into the mods and rockers thing later. I got some issues with that stuff. Not just because I'm American, but because Anyway, we'll get into that. There is no song that made me happier the first time I heard this record than The Punk Meets The Godfather.
Yeah.
Because this is it, man. This is the fucking Who right here. This is all of the Who. This is the Who I can play on the guitar in my bedroom. This is all of it. This is one of the best intros to their song ever.
Yeah.
I listened to this in 5.1. I went to a neighbor's house. I was able to use the system because I don't have one anymore. And the layers upon layers that I've heard so far in the album, and specifically in this song, are amazing. Jimmy goes to see a show. He sees the Who, which I assume that's who he's going to see. But then you get this, Pete Townshend singing in the middle of it, almost out of his body to the crowd, and then it goes back into, Roger Daltrey and Keith Moon singing back to the crowd, but basically singing lyrics they wouldn't normally sing to them, about what their role is to the Who as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've listened to the song thousands and thousands of times, and when I was doing like the homework and deep dive on it, and just like I would read up on the songs, and Yeah, just like a conversation between, the band and the audience, and um, you know, maybe Jimmy's kind of realizing like, hey, are these guys phonies? Like, are they, they're putting on a show and they're not who they are after, that kind of thing. Um, but that's definitely, I think, Townsend expressing himself like, hey, like I'm not who you see, and I think that's something Townsend has had an issue with for a long time. Is he's this one person on stage, but nobody knows him off, and um, you know, uh, pounding a stage like a clown, like that whole thing is, um, you know, to be a rock star, I can't imagine, but everybody wants to be one, but I can imagine just like the stuff you have to mentally unpack with, you know, put yourself out there, and then like if you're not that guy on stage, yeah, just you got to be two people all the time, and this is kind of like a call, what both people would like to say if they could, but they, doesn't always happen that way.
But yeah, but they're playing their part. I mean, I'm up
Yeah,
here doing what I'm doing. You're down there being the kid doing what you're doing, and we both need each other, even though
yeah,
you know maybe we're not being completely honest, but we both need each other. I really like the song. Plus, I mean, it's got that who shit, man. You know,
oh, everybody's playing lead in the song.
it's everybody's playing lead in the song,
Oh,
and
unbelievable.
yeah. And like I said, I would love to go into the movie version of the song, but I'm saving that stuff to the end. We're keeping it
Yeah,
Quadrophenia record right now. Did you ever see the show Freaks and Geeks?
yeah, I loved it. One of my
Okay,
favorite shows.
so
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about now.
yep,
You know the episode I'm going to talk about. It's hard to forget how hardcore the Who were going at the time. Freaks and Geeks was this TV show by Judd Apatow in the early 2000s, and there was one whole episode that was just Who music in it, right? And it wasn't Who music you had to pay a nose to you put in a show. I think Slip Kid was in it. I forgot
hmm
what else was in it. I know for sure I'm One is in it. Because Bill is having problems at home, but he likes to come home and eat ice cream and watch comedians on TV. And he was listening to I'm One.
yeah,
I'm One is an anthem. There's such a dichotomy in the lyrics about how unsure I am of myself in one verse, but in the other verse, I have ultimate belief in myself and I'm okay being who I am.
yeah,
And it was an anthem and it was great. And we can talk about that episode of Freaks and Geeks later because I would love to in the context. But I just wanted to bring that up because that character in that show, he's fairly nerdy. He gets fairly put down at school quite a bit. But when it's just him doing what he likes to do alone, eating his ice cream, watching his comedians, he is one. And it goes double for me if I like to sit in my room and play my Epiphone EJ200, not my SJ200, and play I'm One. And I love that song. And if anyone's listening and hasn't heard Pete Townshend's 1996 Fillmore show, which I'm pretty sure I've sent you, or
yeah,
that version of that song is my favorite. It's a great song.
yeah. It's just beautiful, and again, super relatable, and you're just not sure about who you are, but you are happy with who you are in some sense. And um, as a teenager, you have no idea how to juggle those feelings. And I think as you get older, you get a little bit better of figuring out who you are. And I'm fine with this or whatever. But yeah, as a teenager, you're just kind of figuring it all out, and what feels good, and as who you are, and but you see everybody else around you, and you never have what you want. And uh, yeah, it hits the nail on the head. And I'm trying to, I don't even know how old these guys. I don't know how old Pete was when he's writing this album, but uh, those feelings of being a teenager were still there, and hit hard for him. So just to be able to, I don't even know how a person can think about that and express it into words and music. But Yeah, that's why Pete Townshend's Pete Townsend for sure.
Yeah, and you said something earlier about Keith or Mick aren't going to write a song. I'm not saying they don't write good songs. Uh, this is my friend Chip here is going to make a little speech now. Chip resides on my shoulder,
Yeah.
okay, and he stays there because Chip has had to listen to people talk about the Rolling Stones and the Beatles for a long time, right? And Led Zeppelin for a very long time.
Yeah.
And Chip thinks The Who is better. Chip thinks The Who is a lot better. And Chip doesn't believe that they're in the same class. And songs like this are why. And maybe we'll get into more of that later, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, this is a great song. Pete Townshend's a great writer.
I'm totally with Chip, like
Yeah.
all the way, and I could go on for hours and hours and hours about why this band's better than Stones, Beatles, Zeppelin, all that stuff. Just, I remember Townsend one time, I can't remember what he's like. Somebody, I guess maybe when Endless Wire came out or something, like, why don't you, do more albums, this and that? He's like, if you want an album full of like bullshit rock and roll songs, I could give you one every I could give you one every month. It's not a big deal. I can write those songs. But I think he has to go to a certain place, and I think he has to feel a certain way, and he could just write circles around the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles are just a pop group for the longest time. He could do that all day, every day if he wanted to, and it's I haven't found a Stones album that's meaningful, even as anywhere nearly as meaningful as this, any Who album, but especially Quadrophenia, just the way it makes you feel and touches you, inside. Did those guys write some cool music and music you enjoy? And, there's Led Zeppelin songs that I love, that get me pumped up and rock and roll and all that, but they don't make you feel a certain way for sure.
And I think that goes to Pete's thing where he likes to write for his audience.
Yeah.
He's writing for his audience. He's doing the Irish Jack thing. He's writing as a reflection of us. You know what I mean? And I feel like that kid who just wants to be in his room where I feel like I'm good if I get something right on the guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going out trying to bang someone at a rock concert, which is, I feel like, what those other bands kind of seem to be about when people go to the shows. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Rock fans love you. Just, this is the Who show. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next song is a big favorite of mine. I'll let you talk about it first. Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Just. I'll never. Yeah, I remember listening to this the first time and just kind of like trying to figure out what was going on, and. But yeah, just from a musical sense, like again, I mean the whole album, I can say Entwistle just crushes it. And just the variety of ways you can play the bass and lead the song and create melody, and I could talk about Entwistle for hours. Just my favorite. So, but he can just he can play soft stuff. He can play just very melodical, and this song crushes it for me. I'm just looking at my notes and like just incredible. And then. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it really, a lot of these things to me, it's hard to not talk about these tours because this song takes on a new life when Simon gets it in 1996, I think.
Yeah.
Simon Townsend came on in 1996 for the Quadrophenia tour, and this is the song, and they would give him a hat, but he would do the bus driver verse first, and you have this verse in the middle that goes back to Roger. The karma tells me you'll be screwed again. And it's about all these older men. This is where it gets a little deep with the post-World War II stuff. All this stuff is born out of post-World War II England, right? And, the really feel for that is the Battersea Power Station, where they took all the pictures for the album. It's a cover album of Pink Floyd Animals as well. And just this cold life of post-war England, where these guys are kind of walking through these jobs. they're dirty jobs. They're bus drivers. They look after pigs. And I think they're content to do that and drink at night because they've seen horrible, horrible things in the war. And their kids haven't. Their kids haven't seen those things, and they don't understand. They just know that mom's pissed off because she had to deal with you because dad was away. And when dad comes back, he's not the same because he's got shell shock or PTSD or whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's just another, step in his life where he doesn't want to do that. He's not going to be content to do that. And, you put it through that Townshend kaleidoscope, and it sounds beautiful.
Yeah. And it's, I wouldn't say my dad had a dirty job or any of that kind of stuff, but you kind of touched on like these dads had these dirty jobs, and it's just like, all right, you put your 8 hours in, you do your job, you come home, just that kind of mentality. And we're not that far removed from that kind of home lifestyle. I'd say my dad had a dad who was, a war guy, and maybe he didn't go to World War II, but he was Korea, but kind of had that same mentality. Like he was a mechanic and worked on the machines at McCormick, and just you go in, you do your work, this and that, like no bitching, tough love kind of thing. And that that gets transferred from generation to generation. So my dad's not that way, but you can tell that way growing up kind of left a thumbprint on him, so. And my dad's definitely the same way as far as like you go to work, you do your job, you give your best and that kind of thing. So it's definitely relatable again, it just kind of hits Townsend does it again. It's incredible that you can just pass that feeling along.
And like I said, when Simon Townsend does it, he does it, it's so powerful. And it's so amazing. And, I just love it. And last time I saw a Simon Solar show, people were asking to pay for him to play it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I guess he couldn't because he has to, pay to play it kind of thing. Because why wouldn't you let your brother sing the song? Anyway, but it's a great song. I love it. Now we get to a song I'll let you take because I don't really have too much on Helpless Dancer. I mean, it's a good song. I like it. If we're picking not favorites on the album, it might be one of them for me.
Yeah, no, I can hear you there. Yeah, so doing the deep dive on it and doing the homework, this is Roger's song as far as for his personality. And I wrote down, Jimmy shows his frustration with society. Not my favorite song. I mean, I won't skip it by any means, but does it really hit hard? Does it bring anything home to me? Not necessarily. It's just kind of like a nice little holdover piece, to the next part of the album.
It's like a reflection still of what life is like, going on there. And guess what? From Helpless Dancer today, are we different? Nah.
Nope.
I don't think it's changed at all.
Yeah, I think I literally said hitting home hard these days. And yeah, it definitely does.
All right. So to close out, just, we can talk about these together, I think. Is it in my head and I've had enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One leads right into the other in the world of Jimmy. I compare, I did a lot of, Rocky analogies to Keith Moon in this, because his drumming isn't so agile and all over the place. It's hard. It's, as he said in Rocky Balboa, he's like, you don't have speed. What you have is power, and we're going to drop some hurting bombs. And that's what Keith Moon does this entire album.
Yeah.
It's hard. And this is Jimmy wondering if he's crazy. And I remember being a teenager also having that fear of missing out, am I going crazy kind of vibe.
Yeah, and as a teenager, self-doubt's really big, and you're just everything. I mean, throughout life, everything's new, but definitely in those teenage years, you're just kind of figuring everything out, and you feel, you're starting to develop new feelings for, partners, and just all that above, and you have no idea if you're going crazy, and um, even now, not as a teenager, you think it too, but definitely back then though, you have no idea what's going on, and you definitely question a lot. You question reality. Just and the song does a good job kind of figuring that out. Pete's demo on this too is really great, just incredible.
Now, I did listen to demos, but I listened to them like once, so I can't talk too much. I listened to them before, but just once for this.
Yeah.
Is It in My Head is really like prescient today as well. A lot of these songs are prescient today.
Yep.
August 2020, if anyone wants to know. Prescient. I've Had Enough. Okay? So I've Had Enough is put at the end of the movie Quadrophenia.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is another conversation. This has multiple sections in the song. The first section, which is you were told it was this way, but it's not. The second one is love. I like to call this part "Love Ran Over Me," you get your happy banjos with "You've Had Enough," but more importantly, you get my favorite part of the whole album. You get the introduction of the Ace Face.
Yep.
Which is my favorite kind of Who song. It's A, G, D over and over again, much like the end of Pure and Easy.
Yeah.
Basically, all of Won't Get Fooled Again. I can't say enough about it. I love it. It's when I see it live when Billy Idol shows up most of the time. It's great.
Yeah. No, it just again, it kind of just the whole song just kind of speaks to what the Who can do, and you have a banjo part in the middle, you got Roger screaming at the end, and just the transition to the next song. They production wise, it's incredible. Just musically, it's incredible, just from what Townsend can come up with. And the Ace Face coming into it, and just kind of like, that's the guy, and Billy Idol plays that part perfect. When I got to see the Quadrophenia Classic show with Alfie Boe, I went up to New York and saw that, and Billy Idol was there for that too. It just like.
Did you ever get to see Billy Idol? I guess you didn't when he actually did it. Okay, right.
That was the first and only time I've ever seen him, but he's the perfect person for it, and just nails it, just crushes it.
Okay, so I guess I'm going into it a little bit. Randomly, I was at a barbecue with my dad's work, and some guy there said, "No, they're doing Quadrophenia. Didn't you know that?" And something in my brain started to explode. He said, "We'll go." And the first time I saw the Who was 1996 Madison Square Garden to see Quadrophenia, and I think I sent you a link to that.
Yeah.
As well, and I got to see Phil Daniels screaming to the crowd. Like, the crowd would not show up. They were going nuts the whole time. Billy Idol was there. The other guy playing the Godfather was there, who we won't talk about. And it was like literally an amazing, like the most amazing night of my life.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know why I said that now, but that's what this makes me think of, because that's when I saw Billy Idol, and I saw that tour many times, and every time they switched out other people, but Billy Idol was always there.
Yeah.
And
anybody better for it.
And the reason I bring it up is because, I didn't know much about Quadrophenia, but I knew 515, and I knew where it was in the order, right? And they do the intro, and then there's some narration, right? And then the whole Madison Square Garden explodes, as I've never seen anything explode for 515, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy, our hero, has decided to take a bunch of drugs and go on a train, which I think the movie does brilliantly. That's one of the best parts of the movie. Spent a lot of my time with the guitar trying to play the song. I think I do it okay.
The whole album's tough to just like. You can't look at a song. Oh yeah, I can play that song. There's not many of them, and
Right.
it's a testament to just what Townsend can do. And there's certain times you're like, is there a guitar? What's going like? And with John just kind of leading the charge on everything, it just you have no idea what's going on. But yeah, this is a fun song to play on guitar. It's been a while since I've done it, but yeah, just a blast. 515, yeah, I'll never forget for me, and I love the album version, but I think I don't know if I had the Live at Royal Albert Hall DVD before or after I listened to Quadrophenia, but Entwistle solo and that's still like that version of that song is still my favorite version. I love the album version, but the Live at Royal Albert Hall ones, that's the version for me. Just uh, everybody's so just jammed up and like rock and rolling and 100 miles an hour ahead, and then Entwistle just does his thing. It's stellar, just so good.
I don't know why they didn't figure out that's where the bass solo went earlier. They figured it out in 1996, right? And it was there until he passed away.
Yeah.
It was a highlight of every concert.
You just got to see go nuts.
and when they did it in 2012 and 2013 with that video, sometimes those things can come off terribly poorly. But this did not.
Yo, no, insane.
Yeah. How many times did you see that? Did you see that more than once?
I only saw that tour once.
Okay.
I think I went to Philly for it. I think the Philly show went on first or went on sale first. You didn't even know about the DC show or something. And I got tickets for that one, and that's the one I saw. But I went with my mom. I go to every Who show with my mom, and I do everything I can to not find anything out, set list or what's going to happen, or I really work hard not to do it. But for some reason, I had heard that they were going to let they were going to feature Entwistle's bass solo in it, and I was like, But I didn't tell my mom about it, and I just remember her going like, just so excited. And my mom's like this tiny little lady, and like for her to be like, oh my god, like it was just kind of fun to see. But I know that bass solo in and out through. I've listened to it thousands of times, and I could like sing along to it, and it just on that show it just hit the spot because I never got to see Entwistle live. So I'm always sad about that, but that filled a very tiny portion of the hole in my heart for not seeing Entwistle.
It was very cathartic for the band too, I think, to see that too.
Yeah.
When you watch them on the video. Now, I'm throwing this together. I did a list of all the shows I went to a couple years ago on Facebook. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I saw that tour 4 times.
Nice.
I think I saw DC. I think I went to Madison Square Garden with my wife. I think I saw Philly at the very end in the very tippy top last row with my friend Sarah. And I think I went to the special Teenage Cancer Trust show they had at the theater under Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Which is they did extra things. They had special guests. Elvis Costello was there. And it wasn't Quadrophenia. That was most of their set, so it was kind of Quadrophenia.
Yeah.
And but they had Pino do the bass solo on 515 just because it was the one night he couldn't do it.
Oh.
And I think that was also the Katrina tour, right? The tour we're in the middle of it. They did the Katrina benefit.
Not Katrina.
12-12-12, what it was called.
Yeah, the 11-11, whatever.
Not Katrina. It was the other.
Started with
the New Jersey one.
Yeah.
Sandy,
there you go. There you go.
Speaking of Sandy, let's move on to the album Sea and Sand.
Yep.
I love the song. It might be my favorite song on the album.
Yes, I'm Yeah, I think I literally called it a sleeper song.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, just again, just it's so Who. The whole song is just the Who. Um, like I think of it as British music. Like Led Zeppelin just stole old blues musician songs and changed them a little bit, and the Beatles just played pop, and the Rolling Stones just wanted to be Muddy Waters, in a dive bar. But this is like absolutely, this is British. It hits the nail on the head as far as what the Who can do and how diverse they are, and just just a really, really, really cool song. The false ending, just absolutely love it.
And this is where I'll do my little mods and rockers diatribe, because I was watching this movie again, and I guess it's just an excuse for angry young men to fight other angry young men.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You have groups of kids that like the Kinks and groups of kids that like Elvis, dressed differently. Growing up, the Kinks and Elvis were the same in the pantheon of rock, and I liked them both.
yeah,
So to me, it's a bunch of just aggro, a reason to go around, get drunk, get jacked up, and fight.
yeah.
And I didn't understand it. I don't think it's an American British thing. I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand taking part in it, and I don't understand. Maybe I'm just not the kind of person that have a need to where I need to go kick someone's face in to feel good, and
Yeah.
that counts as a good weekend, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a relatable thing for our generation. I'm sure back then there was like, oh well, I like this and I like that, but now like I don't, it'd be like people who like rock and people who like country. Like it's I don't know. I don't. Yeah, it's not relatable, the whole mods and rockers thing for me, other than the fact that they don't like each other. But I've never identified with a group in a certain way that I thought like, all right, well, I hate these guys just because. Like,
Or to make me want to go beat up another group.
yeah, no,
That's
there's
yeah,
no, I've never been part of that. Like,
yeah. So I think the mods and rockers thing.
yeah, that doesn't hit home for me.
Yeah. Doesn't hit home. Drowned is a great song. It's another
Yeah,
great song. Sea and Sand and Drowned. They go together like peas and carrots. Pardon that expression. Always been a fan of the solo Pete Townshend version of this.
oh, incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and live at Royal Albert Hall. Um,
Yep.
Him, starts a song, forgets the words, but once he gets going, that's like the video I send to people when they're like, oh, Jimmy Page is the best, or this. I was like, no one could play what Townsend plays in there. It's just his style is so unique. When you hear, he's one of the few guys you can just hear and be like, oh, that's Pete Townshend. Um, but not for the same reasons that everybody else. When you hear Brian May, you can hear, that's him. I remember, I'll never forget like hearing. He did a solo on a Lady Gaga song, and I heard it on the radio. I was like, is that Brian May? And I looked it up, and it was. But Pete is the same way with just his phrasing and his rhythm guitar playing is so unique. And that's the song I send to people when I'm like, hey, like Pete Townshend's a bad motherfucker as far as what what he can do on guitar. And
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to play what he plays in the live drown version. And that's for me. That's the version. I'd be. It's funny. I should build out like a playlist of all my favorite versions. Just do the whole album and just cut in the versions I like. That'd be pretty interesting to do. But yeah, that's the version for me.
And mine's kind of the same, but it's that '96, Fillmore show, which I've heard so many times. I got it on Eel Pie back when that was a thing, and I mean, it's just great. And he did that the whole '96, '97 tour was drowned like that.
Yeah.
And it was mildly disappointing when he went back to the full band in 2012, 2013. To me,
Yeah.
anyway.
It didn't do anything for me on the 2012, but it's still a great song and just again relatable. Like Jimmy's, just depressed. He's not sure what to do next, and yeah, it fits the narrative for the whole song for sure.
And Sea and Sand and Drown kind of go together too, like that. It's like we're not moving any plot forward. We're just kind of walking around talking about being in Brighton at the sea and drowned and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You, sir, have words for Bellboy. Let's hear them.
Yeah, not if Helpless Dancer wasn't high on my list, Bellboy is not my favorite. I don't know. I get it. I know why it's on the album. Do I need to hear Keith Moon sing? Not really. It's just goofy. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything for me. This song stands out from just the rest of the album. The whole album's just so perfectly done and incredible to play and listen, and musically everything's great. And just this one, just kind of like, all right. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it was just like throwing Keith a bone of like, hey, you can play this, you can do this whole thing, but not for me.
I think like a lot of people, I really like it. It's not my favorite on the album, but hearing Keith on a Who record is it's a novelty.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's fun, and especially fun when they did it in 2012, 2013. It was in the Martin Scorsese movie Bringing Out the Dead for a second. Yeah, I don't have much to say about Bellboy. I like it. I do understand, but it's also, it's hard for me to admit that on some of these songs, I don't see eye to eye with Jimmy as much as I used to.
Yeah.
And that's just age.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's 100% age, and I'm like, the man's got to make a living. He's a bellboy during the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sorry if you put him up on the pedestal. You know what I mean? But this is a thing that sends Jimmy, completely.
And I think it's probably a lot of people that we knew. Because, you work in a Guitar Center, I'm sure you knew lots of guys who played in bands and did all this, and I had friends who did the same thing, and it's like, all right, you see him on a Friday night somewhere, and it's like, oh, that's awesome, and it's like, oh yeah, that guy sells like cell phones at the mall. Like it's
Right.
I don't know if I idolized anybody to the point where I was disappointed to find out they sold cell phones at the mall, but yeah, it's just that's the name of the game, unfortunately. It's just you got to make a living, and my work ethic is definitely like you got to work and do all that stuff. So I'm not on Jimmy's side on this one. Like, you do what you got to do. Like,
and I think the movie did kind of try to make a good point that Jimmy was a bit more angsty and had something wrong with him more than the other kids.
Yeah.
So but he definitely put the guy up on the pedestal. He's a bellboy. Okay.
Do what you got to do.
Great. Okay, so this is where the story really falls apart to me, and this is where I start to think that Tommy, as much as a non-ending that Tommy has, Quadrophenia has more of a non-ending.
Yeah.
Because at least at Tommy, you kind of get closure for that dude. A little. I mean, he tried to be Messiah. He was refused. End of story, right?
Yeah.
This is like, I like these songs a lot. I love the last two. But we get to Dr. Jimmy, and it's kind of samey in the way that it's like, okay, well, you're going to get fucked up. Instead of going on a train, you're going to take a boat.
Yeah.
Into the middle of nowhere. You'll take any drug. You'll rape anybody. It's kind of... It's not real woke. Quadrophenia is not that woke.
No.
It's a good song. I like Dr. Jimmy. It's not my favorite on the album, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on it?
Yeah, I it coming from Bellboy, which I won't skip Bellboy, but if I'm listening, I won't notice it. But if I like start paying attention, I'm like, maybe next. As soon as I hear Keith's voice, I kind of like, it kind of wakes me up. I think Dr. Jimmy's well written. I think it's everything kind of together is beautiful, and you got the piano and the guitar and the horns and the everything's good. As for musically for me, I like it. but yeah, as far as where we're going with the theme and all that, like not, yeah, it falls apart. And I've tried explaining the album to friends back in the day, like, oh, you got to listen to this album. What it's like, it's got a theme and there's a story, and like you can kind of tell the first three-quarters of this album is like what's going on. But yeah, at this point, it definitely does fall apart. The story, but I think Townsend probably he could have made an album that was 4 records. Instead of a double LP, it's a quadruple LP. To tell this whole story, and I don't even think the band. I think Entwistle was like, I have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about. So, there could have been some more story building to get to this point, but where to finish it up, but it doesn't get there at this point, unfortunately.
And is it also one of those things where, like, notoriously, he writes the album, he brings the songs, he presents them, and he lets Roger pick what he's going to sing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If that's the case, they're just relying on hoop power, which is enough to get them through the end, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where we get the song I've listened to the most, to try to listen to different versions of it, and the song that I've appreciated, and the song that I think that they've spent a long time trying to get audiences to really be into is The Rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This thing has been regular staple for a very long time lately. Yeah. Since 2012. I think I've heard The Rock many times.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of it has to do with it gives Roger a nice break.
Yeah, that would
before Love Reign O'er Me. Did you see Moving On?
Yeah.
Well, I was here. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah, great.
I saw it at Madison Square Garden. That was my first new show up there.
Nice.
Yeah, incredible.
Was it your 21st new show up there? Is that what you just said?
No, it was my first two show at Madison.
Madison Square Garden. What? Yeah.
Yeah, The Rock for me, it's just perfection. Again, this is one of those songs that's like only Pete Townshend can do this. Only The Who can do this. Zeppelin, no one else is doing this. It's untouchable. Could Pink Floyd come up with something? Sure, maybe, but nothing this powerful, nothing this tight. It just kind of winds everything. It brings everything back together. It's definitely classical music like inspired. But for me, like I remember seeing this on 2012 tour, and that's when they started doing the video. Just kind of like of history and all these important times in history and clips, and like just towards the end, Townsend, it's winding up, and Townsend just hits this huge windmill, and just as they do that, they show the plane hitting the tower, 9/11. That just those pictures and those videos definitely make you feel a certain way for all of them, but 9/11 definitely really hits you hard, and they just build it. They build it with the video, they build it with the song, and they really just. I don't know who decided to do that video or how they synced it up to do it with the band, but they made you feel it in every sense of the fact. It hit every sense, just visceral, and it was. I'll never forget it, and just kind of get like teary eyed about it, and just. It just shocks you, and then the song kind of comes to an end, and then you get to finish it out.
The way it starts with those birds, the bird sound effect they have at the beginning of it on the 5.1, is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
And the thing I didn't notice is they do that marching thing in the middle, and you would see Pete clap at the. And, it's an amazing piece of music. And I had the very fortunate circumstance of being able to take my 7-year-old to see The Who on Moving On Nissan, and that was like on my 40th birthday. It was the biggest full circle kind of.
Yeah, everything worked.
Everything worked, but at the end, like rain is coming in. You know what I mean? And we're in an amphitheater. And I'm just trying to get this kid to Bob O'Reilly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's got Tommy, he got Pinball Wizard and everything. But this is not light, easy radio listening Who material. You know, The Rock is not. You know what I mean?
No.
And but he made it through. It was good. Poor kid had to sit in my lap during Imagine a Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not another easy one, but he made it. You know, he listened to The Rock. My son, my 7-year-old, has heard The Rock live. You know what I mean? That's one for the books right there.
Yeah, but, I think I think both of us saw him in DC at the casino.
Yeah.
And they played The Rock there too. And I a long time ago, I used to try to record concerts with my phone and do all this stuff. And I've gotten so much better about it. Just, trying to live in the moment, just do all that. But I remember specifically like pulling my phone out to like record that, just like The Rock, and then right into Love Rain on Me. It just makes you feel a certain way, and just, I don't know, it just always gives me chills, and brings a little tear to my eye with the video and just how well the music goes and everything. It's perfect.
And yeah, man, it goes right into Love Rain on Me. We know that's the big end. It doesn't really have a resounding ending for our hero, really.
No.
But I mean, it's just a powerful song. They have, Keith just destroy the Kit at the end, knocks everything over.
That's. I mean, you can't say anything about the song that hasn't been said, so I'm not going to bother. It's perfect. And Pete, doing it live, he just hits the notes and brings it up. But Roger, I don't know how he sings that song after, doing the whole album. In 2012, it was just like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Obviously, having The Rock before helps. You get to rest up for a minute, but he still nails it. And he's going to go for the note at the end no matter what. And if it comes out, it comes out. And if it doesn't, he'll change it up.
He'll get it out. He gets it out some way.
Yeah, it squeaks out sometimes, but I can't imagine singing for as long as he has, and doing the scream at the end of Won't Get Fooled Again for as long as he did.
Well,
still knock this out. Yeah, it's incredible.
Let's get a little Who nerdy here for a second. Those Won't Get Fooled Again will know its tours were sweetened.
Yeah,
those were sweetened by some shenanigans on the backing tapes. I think,
100%.
in my humble opinion, but that's okay. The man has earned my money, because I saw him at multiple times during that tour. He would always sit behind the drum riser during The Rock. He'd always be dancing to it, whether or not he had been given some kind of B12 something behind there. I wouldn't doubt it. But I don't know. I don't know. So
yeah.
But he always came. He always brought it. Roger Daltrey is never a problem at a Who concert.
No, it's just I can't imagine. It's a hard song to sing just on your own in the shower, and to do it the way he does it is.
Well, we have video. No.
Yeah, yeah. Roll the tape.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just so impressive every time, no matter what. I'll never get tired of just the piano intro, and just perfect.
Well, I think we covered Quadrophenia, the album.
Yep.
And I think we might be back for a part 2 to talk about some other parts. You have a minute to hang around?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So this is probably where I would end it. So say bye.
Bye.
All right.